Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kavinsky's Tutorials. Today I'm doing my second video on Virsyn's AddStation, which is an absolutely incredible additive synth. I really love it. If you haven't watched the first video on that, I would strongly recommend watching that first. I'm not going to go over all the stuff that I did in that again. I also have 3 free copies of the app to give away to subscribers to the channel. Look at the pinned comment at the top of the YouTube comment section for details of how to win. Those codes will be given out 2 days after the release of this video. If you're watching this video after that time, maybe you should subscribe so you don't miss out on future offers, because I often have codes to give away for apps. Alright then, so let's get stuck in. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just very quickly look at a few things about the block section again, and that'll take just a couple of minutes, and then we'll move on and go through the parts section in detail. If you watch my first video and you watch this video, you will be able to use this app without looking at the manual, and it's a pretty extensive manual. I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to use this app. Okay. So, block. So here we have a block and we've got random octave. Now, one cool thing is that Virsyn have been pretty responsive to all the requests and bug reports and things like that people have been sending in. One thing that is still not there is in AUM, the parameters are still not exposed, and I don't know why we're still waiting for that. I hope that those come extremely soon. But one thing which I and maybe a few other people mentioned was the need for a solo button to hear what's going on in individual blocks. Bizarrely, this was not there before. It's a really, really essential thing. So that's there now, and that's great. That's really wonderful. So that's why I'm taking a little look at blocks before I go on to parts again today. And one thing, though, that has been mentioned in the AudioBus forum is that what this really needs is a way to have a kind of preset menu for blocks. Because if we look at this, these are presets that contain parts, and parts are made of blocks, right? If we look at this one, it actually only has one part and one block. But if we look at a lot of other things, for example, here we have part 1, which has 4 blocks, and here part 2, which has 4 blocks. So if you're trying to make your own patches, it would be really useful if there were already made blocks that you could sort of put together and make your own parts and then just edit the blocks. So that has been mentioned, and I think very validly, as something that would really be a good addition to this. Okay, so again, to get into the blocks and parts view, we just click on a block, and so now we're seeing that block, right? See, shape here, same. We're seeing that block, and then here we have the window for that part. As I say, this part only has one block, but often there's more than one block, and that's why the solo button is useful. Here, the solo button is not going to matter because it's the only one. All right, so one thing as well I want to mention, you might be looking at the keyboard here in the standalone app and saying, hang on here, where the hell is the hold button? And bizarrely, that is all the way over here in the arpeggiator section, hold keys. So you have to go in there if you want to hold a key. So I find that very strange. So now finally we've got a hold key. I mean, there should really be a hold key button here, I think. I'm not trying to be too critical about the app. I love this app, but I have to say that's very weird to me to have to go into the ARP section to do that. Okay. See, I mean, I can't easily unhold a key here. I'd have to go back into the ARP section to do that. I also can't see, you know, what is being held because it only lights up for a second and then it disappears. So I'd like to see something changed there as well. Okay, so here we're looking at the harmonics block. So just seeing the level of detail that we can get. So here I'm just dragging. I'll do it with the mouse. You can see how much of this sound depends on this first harmonic. It's giving it all that bass. So we can play around with things like this. Okay, we have pan, I'm not going to look at that again. Frequency. Okay, so a few things that I didn't look at in much detail here last time. So you see, here we can take, well, let's just take that first one. Right, so we can go in and really fine tune the frequency of this particular fundamental harmonic. Let's see, here this, I'll do the pan. Maybe it's over here. Okay. Okay, you hear that panning now? This is the particular one for this first harmonic. So now it's being panned to the right, panned to the left. Just showing again the level of control in this app. It is pretty incredible. So let's put it back here so it's central, it's not panned. Since this is a bass sound, it's probably quite good to just keep it central. Okay, so frequency. If we go very low, we're not really going to hear that. Okay. Attack. So you see, now this has a very long attack time. You can see that the numbers here, 34 seconds. So it's too slow, so we're not hearing it. Now 0.134 seconds. Decay. So it's fading away extremely quickly. Here we're getting a nice full sound. So again, you know, we can work on this very kind of rough level, or we can go in, get extremely detailed control of everything. Filter. See, let's see what happens when we play with this part. See how the sound is changing there? See, now I got to go into the ARP section again to do hold. This is crazy. Okay, noise. This is really cool. I'm going to use my fingers for this, not the mouse. So, you know, we can actually play this in real time. You could set up a really nice arpeggiated sequence and go in. And do this performatively. Now I want to turn off that hold. I've got to go in here again. So, you know, these things, this is what I sort of realized digging into this more. Don't just think of these as things to be used when you are making sounds, making your own presets or tweaking the presets that are there. Think of them also as things that can be played performatively in real time. That is extremely cool, extremely cool. So let's move on to the next section, which is about the parts. So we've got a preset called Alien Breath, and we're in the level mod section for the parts. And this only has one block and one part, this preset, so I don't need to press the solo button here. So level controls the level. We can pan, double tap to reset to default. Phase sync is pretty cool. This will make the oscillators sync. I really like how that sounds in this particular preset. And here we have a bit reducer. This is related to the velocity when you're playing from a keyboard with velocity sensitivity, which I'm not doing now, so I won't experiment with that. Now, let's change our patch. Let's go to, let's see, new analog. This is really nice. A little bit of delay going on in the FX section. And let's look at the level modulation, LFO. So that basically is going to give us tremolo, amplitude modulation. When we go into pitch, we'll be getting vibrato, pitch modulation. Now, if we start doing things here, nothing's going to happen. Why is that? Well, of course, it's because we need to set things up over here. So let's remember that the source is very important. So now it's just turned on. So when I play, it's going to get triggered. Let's try mod wheel. So this is the trick click over here, so that doesn't happen again. Now, mod wheel, as I play higher on the y-axis of the key, or if you were using an external keyboard, you might just use your mod wheel, right? But here, that's what's nice about using the standalone, that it has mod wheel built into each key. If it's at 100, it's going to be quite a strong effect. If it's down here, it's going to be much more subtle. And of course, we can play this itself by dragging here as we play. Maybe do that with the mouse. We can just turn it on. But definitely I prefer to do it with the mod wheel setup. Now we have different waveforms: sine, ramp, ramp up, ramp down, square, pulse. You can change the rate. This is why we need the parameters exposed, so we can automate things like that. This delay thing is really, really cool. I can't think of another LFO on any synth or anything like that that has this. Maybe there is. If there is, please tell me in the comments, because I really like this. This will delay the onset. For this, I'll change back to just putting it on. If I put this here, when I play a note, it's going to take 1 second before the LFO starts kicking in. Have a listen. You see? That's brilliant, isn't it? Here it's going to take 3.6 seconds. This is great. Here we can sync the rate to the BPM. Remember as well that this is another very weird thing. If you're using this standalone, you have to adjust the BPM in the FX section. You have to go to the delay section, click on delay, and here find the tempo. This is really inconvenient. That's not good design. So I would like to see that BPM button being somewhere in the main window. I don't know, here maybe? All right. Again, we have retrig here. Let's bring delay down. Let's try a different waveform. Let's try pulse. So here it's gonna just follow, let the LFO do its own thing, but here it's gonna reset the LFO each time I press a key. This retrig is a very important button. Okay, let's turn that modulation amount down again. So now we're not getting this here. But you can see that we are getting volume modulation because of the envelope over here. So the envelope let's look, for example, if we map the envelope to mod wheel. So now when I go up on the y-axis, I'm getting from low velocity to extremely high velocity because I've put it at 100. Mod wheel inversion. Here it's going to go from loud to quieter. So here we can note first of all that this has 2 different points you can set for decay. So it's more than just your average ADSR. You can change by dragging things here. You can also use your finger to drag on these numbers up and down, and that'll also change things, which is very cool. Okay, great. Let's go and take a look at pitch. So, got a preset called Singularity, and we're in the pitch mod section. Now, these settings here, we set them in part 1, but they will apply to all the parts. again, remember, double click to reset. Okay, now this random is pretty cool. Do you see how? You see how that works? Monophonic, polyphonic, and the amount of portamento. That's with slow portamento. Faster one, no portamento. Here we can control our pitch bend settings. So this is the normal setting. This will if I bend here, let me do it with the mouse. Over here it's going to play a D. If I change this, then it's going to go higher. It's not letting me open that for some reason. Ah, here we go. Okay, you got to drag along this. So this is important for different controllers. For example, if you're using a Rolly C-board, you're going to want 48, I think it is here. Okay, so LFO, vibrato. Let's just have a quick little listen. One thing I should mention first. We have also the envelope and tracking here. So look what tracking will do. Now pitch is not tracking keys. This can be useful if you're creating percussion sounds and you want them to stay the same on every key. But usually we want tracking. Okay, we also have this envelope for pitch. This is cool. This is really cool. Let's try by dragging along here. Okay. So this is really interesting to experiment with. Let's look at the LFO. Let's take pulse, for example. And again, let's go down here and let's just turn it on and let's just put it full whack. Haha. This thing makes some bloody wicked sounds, it really does. So again, pretty cool to set this up as a mod wheel thing. And use the y-axis of the keys, right? Ha. Sick. And again, we have retrig and so on here. I won't explain this every time. I love the LFOs in this thing. Fantastic. Okay, let's go on and look at filter. Okay, we're using a preset called irregularity. And let's have a little look first at the left side. So we control the filter cutoff. We control how much the playing higher up the keyboard will trigger the filter more. And again, we can set up mod wheel velocity settings for this. Now we'll look at the LFO. We can use that to get a kind of wah-wah effect, which is pretty cool. Let's look at the envelope first, though. So let's see, what will we do here? Okay, let's change this to 1. And let's see, put this down here. So you see some of these can actually go down to minus numbers. Okay. Now watch what will happen as I slide up here. You hear how it's bringing in these really cool filter effects. So again, we could try this with mod wheel. So I'm doing that on the y-axis. The synth is just stunning. I'm just bringing that down. I probably should just do a double click actually. Right. So the LFO in the filter section will basically give us something similar to a kind of wah-wah effect. So let's first just put it up to 100. I like to keep it obvious. And it's just turned on. And let's hear what happens with the LFOs. Haha. My God. Bloody brilliant. I won't go into the delay and so on. That's all the same as in other parts. Okay, let's go on and look at noise. We're using a preset called bass drops here. First, I'm going to take down the LFO mod amount and look at the envelope. And let me just play around with this. Again, we could set up mod wheel. Let's change this. Actually, for some reason, this one is more noticeable with the minus, negative numbers. So again, just using the y-axis. Okay, let's bring that back to 0 again. I'll use my finger. And let's look at here. Okay, cut off noise level and so on. All right, let's not bother with that. Let's go straight to the LFO. So let's try mod wheel. Let's put it. Let's try there. Okay. It's a nice sample and hold. This is changing the phase of the LFO waveform. Okay, so you know by now how the LFO works. For some reason, I'm not getting anything noticeable with this on a couple of these. Anyway, all right, let's look at sequence. We've got a preset called another wheelie tar. Go into sequence. Very important thing to understand here is the difference between time and mod wheel. So let me first keep it on mod wheel, and I'll go here, and I'm going to play a note and move up the y-axis. So it's going to use the y-axis to move along the sequence, right? To morph between the different blocks. Now, if we go back here and choose time, and then go back to the same window, I still get quite confused by the layout in this synth. It is a good layout, but yeah, it takes a bit of getting used to. So watch what happens here. So do you see here, it moved through the sequence in its own time, and it was completely unrelated to what I'm doing on the key. I'm not moving up on the y-axis to make it move along. Y-axis does nothing. So it's really, really important to understand these. Let's keep it on time. Okay, so here we can do a few things. So one thing we can do is we can move along this kind of timeline by pressing here and dragging left and right. Another thing we can do, and I have to use my fingers for this, I can't use the mouse, is on this space we can do vertical and horizontal pinching movements to do zooming. I'll just show you that now. So here I'm doing a vertical pinching movement, and you can see what effect that has. And now I'll do a horizontal one. Right. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, another thing we can do is we can drag. So let's look at the difference. When I drag down on the bottom of this line and when I drag on the top, it's not the same. So when I drag on the top, it's extending the length of this. What do these represent? This is the first block. This is the second block. This is the third block. This is the fourth block. This controls how long a block lasts, and it controls how quickly it morphs from one block to another. So let's listen to that. Let me do it on mod wheel maybe, actually. Let me change this back. So here it's going to be a very abrupt transition. This will be less abrupt. We can also change between slide and fix mode. So when it's in fix mode, it can't actually change the length of the other blocks. We can do a sync here to BPM, then we get note values here. So this is the sequence section. Now let's look at arpeggio. I really like the arpeggiator in this. I think it's great. I'm going to just show you in AUM here, because then we can see the keys. So let's do something with 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Let's bring our speed down a little bit just to make it very clear. So first of all, we turn the arpeggio on or off here, and now we're getting the keys showing there. Strange that it doesn't show them as held when you do it in the app itself. So you can see this is doing a downwards pattern here. Let's change to up. Let's solo this, right? Oh yeah. So this is an interesting thing. In the manual, it says that there should be a group button here, and it even shows a picture of it. Let's look at the manual. See here, this group thing, and this is supposed to help you. If you want to have the same arpeggio settings on all 4 parts, switch on the group button, and the same settings are shared by all parts. Strangely, that is missing. It's missing from the standalone, it's missing from the audio unit. I think this must be yet another bug, so I hope that that gets added. Anyway, in the meantime, I'll just solo this patch so that we're not getting 2 arps going. Because you can arpeggiate each different part, so you can have 4 different parts. You could have 4 different arpeggiators going. I'm not going to explore these. This is going to make the tutorial too complicated and long. So there's an upwards arpeggiation. Now it's down. Now we can go up, down. Or down, up. Random. And then we can change the pitch on individual steps. I would quite like it if there was something in here that allowed you to quantize to scales. It doesn't have that. You can see here which step is being played. We can change velocity for individual steps. This is really cool. So we could have, for example, something kind of building gradually in velocity. Now, obviously, this is not the most interesting ARP patch. I'm not trying to make it interesting. It's so slow. Just to show you clearly what it can do. The gate is really cool as well. So we can get more staccato effect with shorter gate times. See how this one now is lasting longer than the others. So we can come up with some pretty cool patterns here. Skip. If I press skip here, it won't play step 1. So again, this is something you can do to add variation. And another cool feature is reset. So watch what happens with the steps when I press reset. For example, let me press reset here on the 4th step. Now do you see what's happening? It's not reaching that step. It's resetting. So when it comes here, instead of playing this one, it's going back to 1. So this is also something you can do to add variety. That's got nothing because it's only doing step 1, and step 1 has no velocity. So here it's just doing 2 steps. 3 steps. Pity we need to go and do these again every time. It's a really nice arpeggiator, really nice arpeggiator, and just a brilliant app. This thing is seriously just amazing. I love the sound. I love these different parts sections. It's really deep, but I do think it needs some kind of block preset library for building up your own patches. Anyway, you know, it's cool that things have been added like this solo button, so Virsyn are listening, and I hope the parameters get added soon. As I say, that's the most important thing, which is currently missing in my opinion. That, and what else did I say? I'd like to see BPM here in the standalone, not hidden away in the ARP section. I'd definitely, or sorry, not hidden away in the FX section. And I'd like to see a hold button somewhere on every tab as well, so you don't have to go into one particular tab to get a hold button. But wonderful app. As I said at the beginning, if you haven't watched the first video, definitely watch that. And that one will give you a much better idea of what this can sound like. I haven't gone in and demoed presets today, really, just used a few presets to explain some aspects of the parts system. I really like as well the control that you can get by playing with the individual harmonics, their pan, their frequency, attack, and so on. Fantastic, fantastic synth this. Highly recommended, highly recommended. Great job, Virsyn. Just maybe get some beta testers next time, maybe, before it's released. All right, thanks everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.